This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good morning, everyone. We're coming on the air because President Biden is addressing the election. Let's listen.
Thank you. Good to see this cabinet and the staff together here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's good to see you all. Particularly good to see my granddaughter sitting in the front row here. Hi, Finn. How are you, honey? For over 200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact. We're the people. The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character. She has a backbone like a ramrod. She has great character, true character. She gave her whole heart and effort, and she and her entire team should be proud of the campaign they ran. You know, the struggle for the soul of America, since our very founding, has always been an ongoing debate and still vital today. I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose. I also hope we can restore the respect for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the outset. We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes, protecting the very integrity of the election. Many of them are volunteers who do it simply out of love for their country. And as they did their duty as citizens, I will do my duty as president. I'll fulfill my oath, and I will honor the Constitution. On January 20th, we'll have a peaceful transfer of power here in America. To all our incredible staff, supporters, cabinet members, all the people who've been hanging out with me for the last 4 years, God love you, as my mother would say. Thank you so much. You put so much into the past 4 years. I know it's a difficult time. You're hurting. I hear you and I see you. But don't forget all that we accomplished. It's been a historic presidency. Not because I'm president, because what we've done, what you've done. A presidency for all Americans. Much of the work we've done is already being felt by the American people, but the vast majority of it will not be felt over the next 10 years. We have legislation we passed that's just only now just really kicking in. We're going to see over $1 trillion worth of infrastructure work done, changing people's lives in rural communities and communities that are in real difficulty because it takes time to get it done. And so much more it's going to take time, but it's there. The road ahead is clear, assuming we sustain it. There's so much So much we can get done and will get done based on the way the legislation was passed. And it's truly historic. You know, we're leaving behind the strongest economy in the world. I know people are still hurting, but things are changing rapidly. Together, we've changed America for the better. Now we have 74 days to finish the term, our term. Let's make every day count. That's the responsibility we have to the American people. Look, folks, you all know it in your lives. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down, but the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. That's the story of America for over 240 years and counting. It's a story for all of us, not just some of us. The American experiment endures. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going. And above all, we need to keep the faith. I'm so proud to have worked with all of you. I really mean it. I sincerely mean it. God bless you all. God bless America. And may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
President Biden in the Rose Garden to applause there at the White House. His first comments after the election, the loss of the election by Vice President Kamala Harris. President-elect Donald Trump, he spoke at the phone call with him. He spoke of the vice president as well, calling her a partner, a public servant, saying the country got to see a side of her he has known since he began working with her. Her character, her true character, he said Kamala Harris gave her whole heart, that she should be proud. But of this election, he said, we accept the choice the American people have made. And he went on to say something we have heard from him before. You can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. I want to bring in our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Mary?
David, this was a chance for the president to speak to what we know is a very divided country. And as he said, to assure, his supporters, Kamala Harris's supporters, and also those who voted for Donald Trump, that it is going to be okay, as he said, that this is how democracy is supposed to work. You heard the president there reiterating his commitment to a smooth transition, of course, drawing a contrast with how the last transition went, of course, Donald Trump refusing to participate in that. But you heard the president saying, as you said, you can't love your country only when you win, and also making a plea really for unity, to bring the temperature down, he said. And he went on to say setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. And David, it is notable that he did offer a bit of defense of his own administration and his own agenda and policies there at the end, especially on the economy, given that what we saw from so many voters across this country can really be interpreted as a rejection of what this administration has done.
Mary Bruce at the White House. Mary, you're absolutely correct there at the end there in talking about the president and the central challenge of this election. Mary, thank you. I want to bring in John Carl, our chief Washington correspondent, because this, in looking back at the demographics, the votes, who voted which way, a resounding victory for Donald Trump on the economy, and in particular from working class Americans across the board from different backgrounds who said we need to turn the page here. Our paycheck did not go as far these last few years. And you heard President Biden there talk about the infrastructure, the plan that he passed, got it through Congress. He said the jobs will just start being created now. He talked about the strongest economy in the world. Inflation's come back down, the envy of the industrialized nations. And again, you can talk about 40 stock market highs over the last year of the Biden administration, but it all comes down to are Americans feeling it, and who's got the better message about how they'll make your paycheck go further as we go forward.
Look, it's a bid for history, and a lot of what he said is correct. I mean, the American economy is arguably the strongest in the world. He did pass a series of historic pieces of legislation, the impact of which will be felt for many, many years to come. But, David, the reality is what we saw on Tuesday was a rejection of the Biden-Harris administration, an utter rejection by the working class in the United States. Donald Trump not simply winning back the White House, but winning a majority of American voters, something he did not do in 2016, and obviously he did not do in 2020. But look, you and I spoke, we all spoke many times in recent days and weeks about whatever would happen in this election. Roughly half the country would be distraught, would be upset. This was a campaign where Biden and Harris both talked about Donald Trump as not just somebody that had bad policies, but somebody that was a threat to the republic, a threat to American democracy. So I thought that actually the most important words that he said there, as we heard with Harris yesterday, is a reassurance to the country. This is how democracy works. People have made their choice. We're going to accept it. There's going to be a peaceful transfer of power. And those very simple words, we're going to be okay.
We're going to be okay. And he made that clear, and that they're going to be at the inauguration, both President Biden and Vice President Harris. I want to bring in Rachel Scott, who is in Florida. Rachel, we know the work on the transition has already begun.
Yeah, it is well underway here at Mar-a-Lago. Former President Donald Trump and now President-elect Donald Trump has been meeting with his team of advisors. He's also been working the phones. He's been speaking with lawmakers over on Capitol Hill. We know late last night he also spoke with some foreign leaders, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, as Trump's team puts together a list of possible cabinet picks. They've been putting together some detailed presentations, we are told, to brief President-elect Trump, and also a list of possible executive actions that President-elect Trump could take on his first day in office. We know he has a long list of campaign promises, from tariffs to mass deportations as well. And of course, President-elect Trump will be emboldened now by a Republican-controlled Senate. And it was Donald Trump who pushed many of those Republican candidates, especially in some of those tight races like Montana and Ohio, across the finish line, David.
A Republican-controlled Senate and perhaps a Republican-controlled House. We continue to watch that very closely. If that's the case, this is a very clear mandate for the Republican Party. And then a lot of people will be watching. Do they get the things that they promised done in Washington? Rachel Scott in Florida covering the transition for us. Rachel, thank you so much. Our coverage continues on ABC News Live, abcnews.com. I'll be back with the entire team for World News Tonight a little bit later today. I'm David Muir in New York. My thanks to John, Mary, and Rachel, and we'll see you a bit later. Good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.